Florida, growing manufacturing in the Sunshine State.
Right, great. I'm at S&B Metal of Bradenton, up here in, I guess it's Manatee County, and I'm with S&B Metal CEO Charlie Balliette. I hope I pronounced it.
That was perfect. Yeah.
Awesome. Very excited. S&B Metal has been a member of SAMA, the Sarasota-Manatee Manufacturing Association, for quite some time now. They've been involved in a lot of our initiatives, and we're really seeing the companies growing. And I think now you have about 5 locations?
4 cities. Yeah.
So growing like crazy exponentially. And I think Charlie wants to take the company really to the next level in the next 5-10 years. Really, I was impressed with his strategic planning and the vision for the future. So Charlie, how about you introduce yourself, tell our listeners what do you guys do, and let's kick it from here.
Sure. My name is Charlie Balliette. I'm the CEO of S&B Metal Products. I'm actually the second generation. My parents are the founders. So we've been open 51 years now, and it's just been, a pretty incredible journey to see that it has been open for 51 years.
Yep.
That's a feat in business, all in itself. We make custom precision metal products. Simplest terms, we manipulate metal in some form or fashion to the specs of whoever the customer is.
Mm-hmm.
Our customers are typically other businesses, so our products are not usually the end product. They go toward a product that makes the end product. So anything in really any industry that you see that involves metal, we can make components that go toward that type thing.
Got it. And so mostly, I guess, business to business, right? So what would be a product that I guess our listeners would be familiar with, and they had no idea that actually one of those components is coming from S&B Metal?
Yeah, so if you ever eat canned food, most canned food is made through an automated process. We make parts for one of the largest companies that cans the food.
Okay.
So if you go in the grocery store, there's a likelihood that customer we have, 70% of the canned food in there is from that one customer. If you go to the airport and you see the ground supply equipment, so like the scissor lifts,
Mm-hmm.
the de-icing equipment, things like that, we make parts and components that go toward that, all the larger things that you see. So really anything in day-to-day, there's a possibility that we've somehow touched part of the supply chain on it. Kind of a nuanced thing. We actually have parts on the International Space Station.
Oh, wow.
So we make things for the Space Coast. We make just a lot of diverse products. We're in a lot of different industries. We're in the supply chain. So we're not the end part of it. We're just a part of the supply chain. So kind of the company behind the company that you see making the final good.
That's amazing. So I guess you maybe not directly working with the government, but in a supply chain.
Yeah, exactly. We're part of the supply chain. So a lot of the government contracts specifically, we are one of the suppliers for that.
Yep.
So there's a lot of compliance that we have to go through to be a part of that, but we are not directly supplying the government. A lot of the defense contractors, we supply them.
Yeah, I bet there is more scrutiny around that when you get.
Yeah, of course.
And looking forward, is it something you want to do more of business wise, or you want to not really? If it comes, it's great, but it's not really the strategy.
Yeah, I more am along the lines of I never want a single point of failure.
Yeah.
So defense
Smart.
contract work is fine, especially when, we were in OIF and OEF, and the defense contractors were producing a lot for that. But you also don't want to rely on or celebrate war as being, a need for your business. So I think I'm comfortable just being in a lot of different industries, and wherever the market kind of goes demonstrates that's where a need is. And I think that, our best value is just being wherever the need in society is.
Yeah. And you mentioned OIF, OEF. Can you
Oh, sure.
specify
Yeah,
what?
that's Operation Enduring Freedom, which was our conflict in Afghanistan,
Mm,
and OIF is Operation Iraqi Freedom. So
okay.
when we were making a lot for the defense contractors who were supplying the war efforts in Iraq and Afghanistan, there was a lot of DoD funding for that. So we did a lot of work for defense contractors during that time, and since then it's slowed down. So. On one hand, it's good. Our conflict overseas have slowed down, but you really want to be able to pivot away from that as a business model because you don't want to have to rely on
Exactly.
Department of Defense and things like that.
Yep, absolutely. And you are obviously very familiar with since we know each other, so I know you're very familiar with the Army, with the Air Force. So I was just wondering how much your background in the Air Force. First of all, thank you for your service. But how much this background do you think helped you shape or hone or your skill set, your leadership ability? Do you think it played a major role, or just wanted to get your take on that?
Yeah, so just to clarify, I was in the Marines. I was a captain. I was a pilot in the Marines. Um, my background in that, I think it shapes you. One thing the Marine Corps believed is that leaders can't be created. It's not that you're necessarily a born leader. So it's a skill set like anything else. And I think that was being on active duty for 10 years. What kind of came out of it is you refine that leadership just in how you speak to people and how you view things as something greater than just yourself.
Yep.
I think those are all things that kind of go into it. So one thing that is kind of inherent within the military that goes toward leadership in business is you're never going to have all the information. You don't know what the market's going to do. You don't know what demand is going to look like in the future. So you really have to look at it from what is the most sound decision I can make, not knowing all the information. What is going to make sure our company is going to be open another 51 years, not knowing all the information? How do I raise our worst case scenario? So I think those are the lessons I took to this role, is just trying to say, I'm not measuring myself based on the peak or the best days. I want to measure, how do we do when the times aren't good? Can we be somebody who survives those times? And that's a lot of the leadership lessons that I brought in. Just how do we make it so that, worst case scenario, we're still going to be fine.
Yeah. So is it part of your, I would think of the strategic planning that you go through, or your contingency planning?
Yeah, I think it's a part of strategic planning, because as a small business, you kind of go back and forth between, do you want to be as lean as possible and have like as much efficiency as you can? Okay, well, if you do that, you have no redundancy. So then if you have redundancy, you look at it and go, oh, wow, we could be a lot more efficient. We're spending a lot on redundancy. So it's always this back and forth between, being as lean as you can be, and then also, do you have redundancy? And I just, for one, don't think, if you're looking at it for the long game, a single point of failure is unacceptable. So you have to build in as much redundancy as possible. You just don't know health of people, retirement of people. We're a people-based organization, so you just want to make it so that no one person holds the future of everybody.
So I think succession planning is big, right?
Succession planning is huge. We did, I think, successfully move from the first generation of the business to the second generation of the business. And I'm a second generation from the founder, but our president or VP of sales, most of the key people started in the business and now are in key roles. And that transition happens over 5-10 years. I think about that frequently, where 1 out of every 6 of our employees are over the age of 60. So we have to replace them in the next 10 years. Yeah. A lot of tribal knowledge. It's hard to grow when you're just replacing. So I have to think about, how do we replace who we have and all the knowledge they have with the next generation. On top of that, you need to produce above and beyond that so that you can even grow. So those are a lot of things. Succession planning is big because every position, somebody is moving on, moving up, moving out. You have
Yeah,
to always
of
keep that in
course.
mind. Yeah.
So you mentioned the 60 plus. You said about what percentage? 1 in 6?
1 in 6 are over
60,
the
yeah.
age of 60. Yeah.
So what's your strategy? You know, workforce was always, I mean, it seems like it's, to me at least, I feel like it's always was an issue. Uh, so what do you do here with, you know, workforce challenges? And it's hard to find the people, it's hard to find the right people. But I always say the right people is more important than the skill set they have, because if you have the right person, you can coach them the skills, right? As long as they want to learn. But what's your
Yeah.
strategy about, you know, finding the good mix of talent?
So we have incredible tenure once somebody's been with us 3 years. So when I go back and I look, all of our turnover happens at the entry level. Once somebody is here for 3 years, they retire with us. When I approach people about positions that we're going to fill, it usually is, asking them, when do you want to retire? When do you want to step back? And they have a number in mind. I want to be 65. I need 3 more years, whatever it is. And when you do that, it gives a lot of clarity, because then we can say, great, we'd like to have you train people to fill your role. And so far, everyone's been very open to that, because we know how long you want to be here. And now when you see us training somebody, you're not being replaced.
Yeah.
You understand you have, a plan in mind. So I think about it that way. I also never use the phrase, hard to find good people, because I do think it is disrespectful to those that we have and who have been here for as long as they've been here. I think that if we don't attract people or keep people who are in the first year or first 3 years, then it's because we didn't do a good job communicating our expectations. And I look at that as a hiring issue more so than it's hard to find good people. I think it's just a mismatch of expectations.
Yeah, so look inside the organization, what you can do better.
Look inside the organization. What did we not do? Now, I understand there is some leeway to, in the first 90 days, we're all feeling each other out. And if they want to leave in the first 90 days, then okay, they weren't really, so that's fine. I understand that. But if we're making a series of hires where all new hires are not working out, then I think that is something we look at internally to say, we are not communicating well what it is we do. We don't want to be in a position that we're hiring somebody just because they can fill out an application. We want to, especially if we promote from within, which we do almost exclusively, then we have to make sure we're hiring quality people in the beginning, because those are the ones we're promoting to the key roles.
The leaders.
Those are going to be the future leaders. Yeah. So whoever you're letting in the door is going to be, in a leadership role or in a key position, because you don't have to always move up. You can just be a very skilled tradesperson. And I think that's one thing that's unique about our business and our industry as well, is that you don't have to move into a leadership role or else you're not doing something right. You can just hone your craft as a welder, and you will still keep getting, compensated and paid more for that. So yeah, I think it's like a faceted type thing as far as hiring and how we, view it. But I really try to say, let's keep the good people, the ones we want to keep, and let's train them so that they can take on different roles within the company.
And yeah, you need to know what each person wants, right? Not everybody wants to be leaders. Not everybody wants to be managers. Some of them are happy in their job and they want to do it really good. So they want to be in the top level of the job.
Yeah.
Well, they're 3, 4, whatever level the top level is, right?
Yeah. I think, I heard an expression that you can't motivate people. You can only find what motivates them.
Exactly.
And I think that's what you have to learn, is what actually motivates them. And if somebody wants to be on the floor, I've heard people say, I don't want to write reports. I don't want to make PowerPoint presentations. I don't want to do that. I like building things. That's good to know. And we want them to know that there's a path for them here to do that. Then there are some people who are like, I've been doing this for a long time. I want a change of scenery, and maybe it's through the sales side, maybe it's through the programming side, maybe it's through the production manager side. So there's different avenues, but I think a lot of that's just communication and, being able to have candid conversations of, what is it you're looking to achieve? Because I think once both sides have clarity, we can really help each other out in that respect.
Absolutely. Would like to say, find them the right seat on the bus, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. The Jim Collins, having the right seat on the bus, having the right people on the bus, because there's no strategy that survives having the wrong people on the bus.
Exactly.
So you have to have the right people on the bus. And that's one thing I was very fortunate with when I came into this role is we had so many people who have been here so long who are the right people. So it is just when we change our strategy, as in the theory of constraint, which, we kind of learned through SAMA, we had all the people who were just like, okay, it's a new strategy. It wasn't a purge of any sort. Everybody is still here. We're just now taking a different strategy. And I think that's, it's critical. So my predecessor, put a lot of the right people in place. And yeah, that changes everything. Yeah.
No, that's huge. That's definitely, you could call it luck or just the perfect alignment where you're taking a role of a CEO and you have the right people already. So that's it's almost like a blessing.
It is a blessing.
Now you just need to figure out the right spots for these guys. So you mentioned SAMA, you mentioned theory of constraints. So I guess we can jump to it right away. Obviously, you're members of our manufacturing association, SAMA, Sarasota-Manatee Area Manufacturers Association. Great member. Hopefully for another 51 years, right? But what's the benefit? I mean, you mentioned TOC, but what's the benefits of being a part of, as a manufacturer, being part of that association? You can also explain a little more about what do you mean by TOC?
Yeah, so I think our society in general works the best when it's kind of bottom up. And SAMA has a bunch of members who have similar interest, similar incentives. We want a lot of things that, it's going to benefit the general interest of the group. So I think that's where the benefit of, being in SAMA comes along is you provide us resources that probably benefit all of us somehow, some way. So that's I guess the best part about being in an organization like that. Now, to some level, maybe you find customers or you find things like that, but I've really never seen it that way. I've more seen it as we're not really competitors. We're really more co-companies, in the same geographic region. We don't necessarily have the same customer base, but we all have the same, struggles. We all have the same benefits. So I think that's where an organization that can kind of align all of those interests, I think it works out really well. Do we move into theory of constraints now, or did you want to talk?
So that's a great point. You have a lot of manufacturers. It could be different industries, right? It doesn't have to be the same industry, but you can learn a lot from each other because, like you said, similar struggles. I mean, you can be very different businesses, very different industries serving completely different customers. But when you're looking really at your pain points, they're so similar between one manufacturer to another, even though they're such different, for you producing such different products. But then, you mentioned TOC, so I guess you said it through SAMA. There was you got familiar with TOC, or you probably were familiar with TOC before.
Be honest, I wasn't. Yeah.
Oh, no.
So
I see the book. There's a goal right there.
Yeah. So I bought all the Gold Wrap books after we did the Theory of Constraint seminar. I had been familiar with lean manufacturing, and I've read a lot about Toyota, and I've always been impressed by their thought process and how they approached manufacturing. But it didn't have a lot. Say a lot. It wasn't the best process for us because we don't produce our own product. We make everything based on customer demand.
Yeah.
So TOC was the ideal way to look at the resources in our business, because we can only get through our shop what our constraint will allow.
Yeah.
So when I heard Rami Goldrat's presentation, I'm glad I had a few key people with me there, because we were looking at each other saying, this explains a lot. This is really very useful. So we explored more in it. I bought the goal. I just was like, if we're going to grow, we need to have a repeatable process that we can teach and implement. And that's the only way. You can have 4 locations kind of doing their own thing, but it's a lot of governance. If somebody does it one way here, somebody does it another way here, you're not going to have 10, 12, 15 of them by having all these individual entities kind of doing their own thing. So you almost look at it like a franchise model where, McDonald's has their model, Chick-fil-A has their model, like all these franchises have their model, so that there's a little nuance allowed, but you have to have a process that's repeatable. Otherwise, you can't scale. So theory of constraint was kind of the answer I was looking for, which is, how do we have a philosophy that's repeatable everywhere? Because that's what it is. It's a philosophy. It's not a process. It's a philosophy. It's saying that you can only get out the door what your constrained resource will allow.
Yep.
And teaching that and really just thinking about it that way, I think it's going to open up a lot of doors as far as whether we expand, where we expand to. We'll be able to take, people who are not familiar with it, teach it, and then they can replicate it. So I'm excited about it from that respect.
Yep. And we actually have Rami coming back. Is it next week? No, in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
In 2 weeks.
Yeah. So we have 2 who didn't attend his first presentation are going to go there, because we wanted them to be able to see it again. Yeah, I think it's very useful. It's very worthwhile. It's funny. It's very simple, but it's not easy to implement. So I think that's where people are going to find the roadblock, which is status quo is just a lot easier. So it is a lot of work, but it's a very simple premise.
And it's like obvious, right? He has a book. Isn't it obvious?
It's obvious.
Right?
Yeah.
It's obvious.
I've read that one. Yeah. So it is. It's simple. It's obvious. It's just not easy.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's great that you're taking advantage of the events that we are making it happen in Sama. The big thing we're really having is, or one of the issues is the participation, right? Sometimes to get manufacturers participate in those events is a challenge. But we noticed that when we brought in Rami Goldrat, we were fortunate enough to be introduced to Rami, to be able to bring him, because he's kind of everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Right. So we were fortunate to be able to bring him, and we got good attendance. So we keep thinking, okay, what can we do better? What kind of events we can bring to our manufacturers to get them excited? Because manufacturer's life is pretty busy, right? You have a lot of things, you have a lot of fires to put away. So
yeah. I guess I like events that keep things open-ended. Theory of constraints challenges the way you're currently doing things, and it's great for management to be able to have this kind of conversations. So I guess those are the kind of events I enjoy most attending, or things that are new ways of thinking, new thought processes. Even if I don't implement them, I still find it fascinating and interesting how other companies have done business. So
absolutely. Actually, tomorrow we have the Lean webinar, A3 Lean webinar.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody of you guys can sign up. Could be interesting. So we spoke briefly about workforce. I want to touch base on that again. Are you getting any young people involved? I mean, hired, or because we always have a little struggle of young people even knowing about the possibility of manufacturing in Florida, let alone figuring out where the companies are located. So a lot of young people, unfortunately, thinking that the only way to succeed is to actually venture somewhere outside of Florida.
Yeah, we do have young people. We're hiring young people, and they've been very good as a whole. I think, the school model is, when you're in high school, you take the SATs, you take the ACTs, and I think they frame it a lot like your path is supposed to be into college.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not until somebody is like, well, I didn't do well on the SAT, and they're like, okay, great, well, there's a manufacturing day. And I think high schools fall into a habit of making it so that manufacturing is the alternative to college. And I don't think it necessarily has to be thought of that way. We have Manatee Technical College down the road. We
Yeah.
just started a partnership with them where
Yes.
we're going to interview students that they have in their program. Whether or not we have an opening, we're going to interview them. That way they have practice doing interviews. And then also we can hire them if we have positions open, but we can provide them feedback on their interviews. So I think the young people, they don't necessarily have a lot of direction. If their direction when they're in high school is either go to college or figure it out,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we should be surprised that, figure it out is not that easy. I think there's a lot of idea too where, follow your passion. If I had my dream job, I'd be pitching for the, Cleveland, Guardians or something. So I think there's a lot of, you follow your passion, and it takes you a little while to figure out, like, if you follow what you're good at, money will follow. So follow opportunity, follow what the market is telling you. And there's a huge opportunity right now in the trades, not just for welders that, we are looking for, but for carpenters, plumbers, anything. So the trades are a great path to go. You can really earn a decent living right out of high school. I think it's just, our culture kind of still looks at it like, go to college or there's an alternative. And I don't know if it should be looked at that way. I think you should look at it like, do you want to be a builder? Do you want to build things? Do you want to do things with your hands? If you do, this is the best path for you. If you want to be in a, office environment or a corporate environment, then you can take this route. So I think it's, maybe even learning just a little bit about the students might give them a little more clarity on the path they take. But we've hired young people, and I can tell you whether or not someone's a good employee, age is not the reason for it. There are people who are in their 50s who flake out within a week, and they don't show up on time. So it's not an age thing.
Yep. It's a misconception. I agree with you. And yeah, the school, I think the school system is changing for the better. And people talk more about manufacturing. I mean, we have all those efforts. It's just, I don't feel like we have enough seats. Or butts in the seats, if you will. We have enough seats, but not enough people attending. So that's how can we make our voice, like a little louder?
Yeah, I would love it if high schools as electives, even offered AutoCAD.
Mm-hmm.
Just have an elective that teaches some kind of spatial understanding.
Yep.
It'd be great too if high schools, they could choose the trade that they want to offer in their school based on their local area. So, I live in Sarasota County, and if healthcare is the largest employer of the county, then it would make sense if the high school had electives that are based on something in healthcare, whether it's how to operate some of the equipment. You don't have to go into that field, but it'd be great if you learned something that was contributing to that local economy. We're in Manatee County. If we're a little more manufacturing heavy, then high schools, it'd be great if they had some kind of trade as an elective in the high school. Polk County is a big logistics area. We have, our manufacturing in Lakeland. So if the Polk County high schools wanted to talk a little bit more about logistics, because then your high school graduates can go get employed in the county you're in. So I think you want to look at it like, well, what best benefits your state, and have your schools make it so that when people graduate, they're employable in their local area. I think that's where schools maybe, should consider extending their curriculum or expanding their curriculum.
Agreed. Good points for sure. And I like how you mentioned that you can go right off high school, you can go to trades, make a decent living. And if you're still figuring out, hey, that's a good way to start figuring out while we're making money instead of sitting in a debt in 4 years down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, even if you don't want to be in that trade for the rest of your life, if you go to the trade school for 7 months and learn one of the trades and you're earning, in 5 years, if you want to go into an office somewhere, I'm sure there's going to be a spot for you somewhere, but at least you've earned a decent living up until then, as opposed to, like you said, going huge into student loan debt to learn a degree that doesn't equal job.
Yeah, you might not even enjoy doing that.
You might not even
right?
enjoy doing it. Yeah, you spend time studying something. It doesn't mean you have a job waiting for you just because you graduated. But I can tell you that the technical college is much closer to producing people who on graduation day are employable. So that's something to keep in
And
mind.
I think nowadays it's even a tougher decision for young kids because AI, right? AI is going to replace a lot of jobs, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
Traditional jobs. So it's going to create a lot of different jobs, but it's also going to replace some jobs, especially some of the office jobs may replace.
Yeah, I think AI is a threat to the white collar jobs, and then robotics is more of the threat to the trade type jobs. We kind of adapt a Toyota concept, which is technology should be used to increase efficiency, not to remove people. So we have a robot welder on the floor. We have not fired a single welder or got rid of a single welder because we have a robot welder. All it does for us is the things that are more repetitive can be put on the robot. And now we have the nuanced jobs being available for the actual welders. And those get higher margins because they're harder to do. The robot can't just do them. So by having the robot, we're able to free up our welders to do the things that take a higher skill set to do. And the robot can just do the repetitive programming task, right? I think that's how AI should be thought of as well, which is if you're spending a lot of time doing spreadsheets or trying to filter through data to try to understand which customers are more profitable, which jobs are more profitable, AI can get you to that conclusion faster. That's something that our account managers can now use to better quote jobs and to look for new jobs. We're not using the AI to let account managers go. It's that AI can be used to facilitate their role. So I think when you think of anything as a competitor, it becomes a problem and you don't want to embrace it. But if you look at it as a rival that you can incorporate into your business, now you're getting the best of all of it. You have the human who's able to utilize it. And I think that's the best way. And if you do it that way, people will embrace technology.
I love it. I love it. I think you hit the nail on the head on every single topic.
Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. So I guess you embracing AI already and robotics, and what's the next steps? Are you going to continue on this Industry 4.0, or people don't like to say Industry 4.0, or just automation?
Yeah. So I don't know much about AI. Like I really am scratching the surface. So the way that I've phrased it to everybody is, this is something we can learn together. So you have my permission. If you find something you think AI is going to benefit you and it's a class you can take or something like that, let me know. You can go to it. If it's an online class, if it's a seminar, something like that, we're at the phase of let's learn this together. As much as I know about, I use AI, the predictive programming of ChatGPT. It helps. It's Google search on steroids. So that's about as much as I know about it. But when I learned about it, I presented it to everybody and said, use your company email, get a ChatGPT account, we'll learn it together. And they come back with things that they've asked, and it's like, wow, that's great. We wanted a 90-day onboarding process. So we asked ChatGPT to help a company like us come up with a 90-day onboarding process, and it broke it down week by week, suggestions. That saved a lot of whiteboard time, things like that. So it's not exactly what we want.
No, you can tweak it here and there.
But
right?
like, that's great. I never considered that. Or we absolutely should do that. So that's how we started utilizing it. I think, again, we're not even scratching the surface of it. But where we are with AI is if you find a use for it with what you currently do, please bring it to my attention because we can explore that. As far as robotics goes, we are putting our toe in the water. We have one robot welder. So all 4 locations, we only have one robot welder. We're learning how to use it, learning its applications. It's, I think people give themselves a little anxiety because they think that these changes in industries happen overnight, and they don't. Blockbuster didn't go out of business overnight.
Yeah.
It was a, decade plus of refusing to change, and that's why they went out. Kodak, the film company, they had digital technology in the 70s or 80s. I forgot when they sold it, but it was a slow bleed over a long period of time. I think people get this anxiety that suddenly AI is going to replace everybody in the office. I don't think that's going to happen. I see it as once you incorporate AI, you have made office efficiency so much more with you currently have. So I don't think it's anything to fear. I think it's a tool, and it could be used for good. It could be used for bad. It could be used for neutral. It can be used for grocery list. It could be used for evil things. I think it's a tool. And I think the biggest disadvantage that you can put yourself at is not learning the tool, because then it becomes something you fear.
Yep. And then the person who learns the tool, that's going to be your competitor, and that's somebody who's going to replace you.
Yeah. Because, when you think about it just very simply, the film industry could have adopted streaming, and then Hollywood could have had movies that went to streaming after they started in theaters. But they viewed streaming as a competitor, didn't embrace it. Now you have Netflix and all these streaming companies eating their lunch. And it's like, but all along, you could have just incorporated streaming into your business model, and it could have been that much better. So I think that's where I look at the technology and say, just if you incorporate it, it just makes you, really that much harder to compete with.
Absolutely. That I could not agree more. So one thing we didn't mention, obviously, you've been 51 years in Florida, right? I guess you're a Florida native.
51 years was our Ohio. We've been in Florida since the 80s.
Okay.
Yeah. So Twinsburg, Ohio was our original location. I guess technically it was Macedonia, Ohio, but that was in 1974. So we started in Ohio, and then we started our Florida expansion in Lakeland, strategically located between Tampa and Orlando. Mm-hmm. So opening in Lakeland, do business, those two places. Eventually we expanded to Bradenton and Daytona Beach. So, yeah.
So what made, I guess, your family move to, or establish a business?
Yeah,
so you didn't move, right? You still have
we still have everything in Ohio. But one of the partners came down on a golf trip and realized the weather in Florida was pretty nice, especially compared to Ohio. And then you match that with we have very favorable income tax laws, business environment. Florida used to be the place that you retire. But then they kind of structured the tax law so that it was a great year-round place. So that's what led to the Florida expansion, which is, all the benefits of being in Florida year-round. And we usually would have either a customer or a key key customer would be in an area that usually our expansion started in. So there was usually an anchor to that area that we would start that location and grow it around the key customer, and then it would sustain itself. So
makes sense.
Did well with that.
And what do you see? So do you see business in Florida keep growing and manufacturing in Florida?
Yeah, manufacturing in Florida is going to keep growing. I don't know if we were to expand. I'm kind of torn on if our next move will be in Florida, because we have 3 in Florida already. Mm-hmm. So it's not in any way a critique of whether or not we move in Florida. I guess maybe if we did, it would be in the Panhandle, like maybe something in Tallahassee or like Pensacola, something we can serve more of the Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi market. Tennessee would be on my radar because it's also a no state income tax state, and we have customers throughout the Carolinas, Georgia, Tennessee. So I think generally speaking, Florida has a very, very good business environment. So if we expanded anywhere, we would have to find a place that has a comparable business environment. I don't want to go to a place that really the legislators don't like business, or small business. So yeah, I think Florida has a very bright future in that.
love to hear that. And you really mentioned a lot of things that I think manufacturers can take, take some notes, get some advice. But if we were to ask you, so what advice would you give to, to manufacturers and maybe people that are starting off their careers, whether manufacturing or not, but young people that are out there?
I guess advice to young people may not be aware of Dilbert, the cartoon. I don't know if you're familiar with Dilbert, right? The creator of Dilbert had something really insightful to say. His name is Scott Adams, and he said, it's very hard to be the best because by definition you have to be one of all, okay? And not everyone can be the best. But with a little effort, anybody can be in the top 25% of whatever endeavor they're doing. And if you're the top 25% in multiple endeavors, you now become in the top 1% of a specialized kind of skill set. Anything that's rare, the market will reward rare. So specifically to Dilbert, he said he was not the best artist in the world, couldn't make a career out of being an artist, but he was a better than average person who could draw. He was funnier than most people, but couldn't be a stand-up comedian. So when you combine those two things, you create Dilbert, and Dilbert was a long-running, cartoon. So the idea is you don't have to be the best. You can be pretty good, and if you're pretty good at marketing, if you're pretty good at bookkeeping, if you're pretty good at, multiple skill sets that you combine, you become somebody rare, and markets love rare. So that would be my advice is try to master a craft for sure, but that mastery can be being very good at multiple things, because if you're good at multiple things, you're also in any kind of job environment. If it takes more than one person to replace you, that's very difficult. Anybody is replaceable, but if it takes two people to replace you, that's a consideration anybody is going to have to think about. So I would say that would be advice to young people is, you want to be passionate about a topic, that's fine. Be good at something that is also useful. Be a bookkeeper, be a, somebody who understands AI, a web designer, something that you can bring along with that passion, because I just remember when I worked at a gym in college, I worked at the front desk, and I did it because I got a free gym membership out of it. They were looking for a personal trainer, and they hired the personal trainer who could do the payroll. So it's like, that was something that was valuable. We have all these personal trainers to choose from, but we're choosing the one that also can do the payroll. That hit me because it's hard to quantify why you're a better personal trainer than somebody else. But if you can walk in and immediately do the payroll for that company, you just saved them from having to hire a payroll person. Now you're a personal trainer. So that was a combination of skill sets.
Yep.
So I look at it like that, is if you can do a kind of combination of things, that makes you rare, and that's what the market looks for and rewards. So that'd be my advice to young people. As far as to other manufacturers, I'm learning as I go. I read. So when I found Goldrat, I read, I think, 5 of his books. I read, things that overlap with those topics. So you mentioned Right Position on the Bus. So I've read Jim Collins. That leads to reading John Maxwell and other leadership books. So I think that's kind of where I go, is just I try to read as much as I can. So when I see something come up, I'm not learning it for the first time, and I don't have enough time on this earth to make all the mistakes on my own. So if I can learn from the mistakes that other people made, then it looks like I did it right the first time, and I didn't. I just learned from all of these people, and now I got to the point of trying to do it right at least. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it was fun.
Yeah.
Thank you, Charlie.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.